Yes, if I confirm, it's your boy Foxy P in the building. I like your boy. The chopper of them and the fryer of plantain. 1995 to 1999 Gidigbo champion. The first Igbo governor of Lagos State. But once I say yes, can I say yes, we fit. Yes, but I confirm. When in doubt, show that breast.
As a graduate advisor for ACA, I'd like to welcome you all for coming and joining us tonight as we do celebrate our inaugural event. This is something that is a novel idea. I'm very fortunate, very grateful to be able to have this actually happen. It was an idea in which that sparked out of nowhere, and I was able to have someone that was so flexible, so easy to work with to be able to make this happen. Just a quick background on what we're doing today. Today is the Africa Today Show Live. The Africa Today Show Live is a frequent news report with a comedic spin. Similar to that of the Today Show, the Colbert Report, but way more flavor, a lot more Maggie to it. So, it's hosted by one of the leading upcoming comedians and African comedians, Foxy P. And what he does is bring you real current issues, but also adding a spin to it to make it more interactive. And for the first time, he's actually doing it live with an audience compared to doing it streaming online through YouTube. So without me yarning too much, let me, without further ado, introduce the Chief Tout himself, Foxy P. Give it a hand.
That's an amazing introduction. Thank you guys very much. You guys can come closer now. It's my class. You guys can sit in the back. All right, wonderful. Thank you guys very much for coming out today. This is it's a huge event for me, and it's a huge honor that you guys actually came out for this. My name is Foxy P, chopper of Yam and Fryer of Plantain. 1996, 1999, Gidigbo champion, still of Lagos State. And the first Igbo governor of Lagos State. Obama said yes, he can. I said yes, we fit. That's somebody beside you. I said Foxy P is in the building. Yeah, so this Africa Today show, as he says, is an online news show. And we're talking about things that affect Africa. So African news, but with a slight spin to it. You might call it comedy, humor, whatever. Just a little bit of gyra, just a little bit extra. So before I go in, just want to know who's in the room. So real quick, we're just gonna do names, where we're from. Boom, 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 like that. And when I say where we're from, you can choose to say, say for instance, you're from Ohio, but your parents are Nigerian. However you want to put it, that kind of stuff. So we'll start from here.
Hello, my name is Jennifer. My people are from Lagos, Nigeria.
Hi, I'm Adiola, and I'm from Oyo. And my sister already said it, Lagos State, specifically Cruz.
Okay. Hello, my name is Ope. I'm from Nigeria.
My name is Toby. I'm from Oyo State.
I'm Eric. I'm from Chicago.
Hey. So we have Nigeria, we have Ghana, we have Chicago, we have all kinds of experts.
My name is Kelechi. I'm from Imo State.
So we have Nigeria, Ghana, Chicago. That means anybody. That's it? Yeah. All right, wonderful. We'll do this. All right, perfect. So this is the thing, right? When I was coming up with the topics for today's show, I was thinking to myself, like, all right, I have to come up with like topics of things that happen in Africa, things that happen in Africa, things that happen in Africa. And I tried really, really hard. I was like projecting. I was like, okay, let me look for things that are happening that would resound with you guys, so that way we can have a very interactive conversation. And I'm reaching. I'm going online. I'm like looking at all the different stories. I'm going to BBC Africa. I'm going to like CNN Africa. Like just trying my best. I didn't know that the news was actually going to come hit me close to where I live. I live in Baltimore, Maryland. And I don't know if you guys heard this, but I think it's like maybe like less than 2 days old, right? A Nigerian guy jumped over the wall of the White House. Nigerian kid. Dummy at this. Exactly. That was my reaction. I was like, oh my god. Oh my god. No. Why of all places? It's not like this. Now when you're thinking about this kind of thing, like, okay, somebody just flew by this fence. Okay. I'm hoping and wishing, probably an American, you know, guy. I hope that nothing bad happened. But when I now saw the person's name, now when you're reading the name, you look at your name, it's like Dominic. Dominic could be Italian, you never know. When I did, like, and I swear the first thing I did was this, right? I don't know if you guys do this. Whenever you see like a Nigerian or African name in the news after they did something bad, I went on Facebook just to see. Because you know when you get those friend requests, you don't really know. Please go, this will not be my friend though. So, you know, but long story short, this guy jumped over the fence at the White House, I believe 2 days ago. No, it was yesterday. No, the story broke yesterday. So it just happened yesterday. And basically, he jumped over the fence and you know, of course, the Secret Service are like, yo, you know, stop, don't move. But the guy was still like, you know, I already jumped over the fence. Every time you don't move, I'm here for a reason. So they now sent like the dogs after him, you know, which they to attack dogs. And this is where I was watching the video, and this is where I started questioning whether this guy is Nigerian. Because the dogs came, this guy's not wrong. This guy actually stood there and punched one of the dogs and kicked the other one. And I'm like, oh, this guy's Nigerian. Because every single Nigerian guy I know, I don't know about you guys though, when I see dog, what do? I run. So it's like, damn, he actually stood there and punched them and everything. But the dogs, like, they did their job, they held him down, all that kind of stuff. Then the Secret Service came and got him. So basically, right now, he's facing numerous charges, of course, you know, jumping the fence into the White House. That's a pretty big thing. But he also assaulted 2 police officers. Now, who are the police officers? The dogs. So, oh yeah, definitely police officers. You know, they have their ranks and everything else. So that's like a big deal. So he has that one, and then so they now interviewed the father. You know how the news now. Before you even hear that anything has happened, they've already called. So they now call the dad. They're like, yo, what do you have to say about what your son did? And the dad's like, what did my son do? Like, no, your son just jumped over the fence. Like, you didn't meet the president. Like, no, your son jumped the fence. So the dad was like, yeah, well, like the son actually has like mental illness and like he suffers from paranoia and everything. Like basically he, you know, the story that the dad now said was his son has gone through a long period of mental illness, and he's been having all these like, you know, visions, pretty much believing that people are watching him. So he feels like there are cameras on him 24/7. So his whole idea behind, so that they're piecing everything together. Like the reason why he jumped over the fence to get into the White House was to get him to stop watching him. You know, and I was just like, I don't want to say that's crazy, but it is kind of crazy, right? Like you jumped over the fence, going to the White House, to tell them to stop watching when nobody's really watching. But I think it boils down to the whole thing about mental illness, right? So I just started thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what's going to happen to this dude? Because you know how it is in this country. I mean, now, being from Nigeria, let me say this first. I'm going to say a lot of things during the show. I don't know if you guys ever watched the show, but that might seem inflammatory, but that's not the goal, right? I'm just trying to, like, you know, bring things up so we can think about it and, you know, get your input. So I was not thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, this dude jumped over the fence. Clearly, right? Went in there, he didn't really hurt anybody, but, you know, he hurt the 2 dogs, the 2 police officers. And now he's inside this wala. And I'm saying, what's the outcome? Like, what could possibly come out of this? You know, how would that affect us? And the more I was thinking about it, the more I was now like, why are people always jumping over the White House fence? Number 1. Number 2, why are people even able to jump over the White House fence? I mean, think about it. Like we live in a country where I can't even get on a plane with a bottle of water, but where the president, first lady, and your children live, the fence is so short that you can actually jump over. And not only can you jump over, you can actually, like, just 3 weeks ago, you guys, I don't know whether you guys follow that story about the dude that like jumped the fence and actually made it into the White House. You know, which was pretty serious. So I'm like, what's going on? So the whole thing was just like, I was just thinking about it. I was like, oh man, this doesn't make any sense. So please, any of you that are here, don't jump any fence. That's the one thing I'm going to throw out there. So that's the guy that jumped over the fence, which I never want to report on any Nigerian doing anything crazy like that, any African doing anything crazy like that, because it just doesn't look good on us. Now, this was a story that broke in Ivory Coast that I thought was pretty crazy. And, what? Are you from Ivory Coast?
No, I said from Ivory Coast.
Who is?
I said he's not
You got no deal.
Oh, he's not here.
Well,
And we'll talk about that one too. We have a story. I mean, the beautiful thing about having you guys here is that it's interactive. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick, right? So I went to undergrad, State University of New York at Buffalo, grad school, Towson University. Both schools, I was definitely a member of the African Student Association. And one thing I always noticed is, why is it that we have a lot of guys and girls of African heritage, African extraction that come to the schools, but when it comes to the associations, it's almost always only female. So I always ask myself that question because I mean I won't lie to you, it was actually good for me because being one of the few guys at the association, you know, and they're like, but the first time you come in, they're like, oh, he's kind of short, you know, he has an accent. But after the first meeting, second meeting, you're the only guy, they're like, not really that bad. But I don't know, like, why is it that way? And I'm not trying to, like, you know, slight any of the guys who are not here or anything like that. But it's just the way, I mean, we do so many shows. I mean, between the towns, African comedians, we go to so many different schools. I mean, I think this year alone, I think we've done close to like 57 shows on different campuses across the United States and Canada. And almost always the e-board is all female. Maybe there'll be one guy. The guy is usually, the guy is not, you never see the guy as the president or vice president. The guy is usually like, no. No subs. Is that what you know, or publicity, or you know, he's the one that handles the Facebook page. So I wanted to throw that out to you guys. Like, why do you think this is the case? Is it that the guys are not interested in culture? I don't know. I honestly don't have the answer. So you guys, I mean, this is very interactive. So please, you know, sure.
You know, we talk about this as a board a lot actually. Why they do it, I'm not sure. Last year we had significantly more guys on the e-board. However, it was the women that were the catalyst in the organization doing most of the grunt work. And so I think it's definitely because maybe we're just a bit more passionate about the culture. I'm not sure, but I can't really speak for anyone else but myself and my few peers on my board. It's like our duty in a sense. And I think more so some of the guys, I don't know, maybe they have their focus is different. Or maybe their grind is different. Maybe it's embedded in us as women, as African American women, as African women. We just have that drive in us naturally to see our works, to see everything we do become a beautiful product. And so we make sure that we put each and every fiber of our being into it. I'm not trying to down any men, but it's really, you can really see our hard work really shine through. And we really do reap our benefits because we work hard and we work very diligently. And so it's often very hard to find some of these little boys out here that have that their heart is just in them. They find themselves so much. I don't know. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things.
I definitely think because my freshman year when I was my sophomore year when I was at Stanford, we had 5 guys and then we had 2 girls. So it was opposite. And then, and then we went to 3 guys and like 4 girls, and then this year it's all girls and 1 guy. So my freshman year, the guys on our board, like they had a real like relaxed feel to it, and it was just like the girls naturally worry about like a lot of things. So when events happen, we naturally worry about like this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. While the guys are just like the overall arching picture, like the event is happening this day. We need to make sure these people show up. But like the girls are like, okay, we feel how are they gonna show up, blah blah blah. So I think as females, we nitpick a lot and we just find like the small things to do, and guys don't really look at that and they're really relaxed about it. Like, okay, it's gonna happen. It's gonna, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. And so I think that's really what it is. And I just think that they like to do like a lot of other stuff. So that's what's happened. Like every time I'm on board, they're always doing something else and something else, and it makes it really hard for them to focus, I guess you would say, on one thing at a time because they're trying to do so many other things on campus and like get females things like that. It's like, okay.
I was just gonna say that men are maybe more passive. Women like to put in the hard work and get stuff done. And in my experience, I think that guys are, like she said, maybe they do look at the bigger picture, but when you need to get certain things done, you do have to get technical and look at every little detail. And I think guys are, whoa, that's too much, so never mind, just chill and do it.
That's interesting. No, you guys, great responses. And I want to take the question away from leadership now. I'm more into just being members of the association. And when I say members, I don't mean like you show up to the annual events, come eat jollof rice. I mean like functioning members, like you can say like, you know, I've been to 5-6 meetings this year. Like, why don't you think guys, or do they attend the meetings? Like, do you feel like you know, you have a lot of guys that attend the meetings, or you don't have guys that attend meetings? I mean, why do you think that's the case? They don't care about the culture, it's not that important now, they've assimilated into, you know, it's not that cool to be African when you're on campus.
I think from what I see in meetings, I think that guys are so like passionate about the culture that they can't accept like listening to other people's like opinion about it. Like we have meetings like they get so it turns into arguments. They get so passionate about like their culture, which is fine, but then like they can't take it away from like, well, maybe what this other person is saying is right. So they come and like they argue and like it's just like, okay, we have to calm down, like everybody's right, just calm down. And so then they kind of just like they get hot-headed basically, and they just don't want to listen to like anybody else's opinion. So then they just stop coming. I think because it's like, well, this is what I think is right, and that's just all that matters.
And also our meetings, we definitely, one thing that makes us different than most organizations on campus, especially the African American organizations, our conversations are very serious. We talk about real things. We talk about factual events and factual things, like issues that are very prevalent, definitely in Africa, and the smaller things that sort of, I guess, reach the African American community that they don't even realize. Right. So when we have our meetings and we're talking about serious things, mostly the girls are more so passionate about the topics. We have opinions that we've been waiting to say or voice our opinions. And so the guys are kind of just like quiet. They're like it's like the elephant in the room that's there. You just you're not saying anything. I know you have an opinion about it because I guess is it not masculine to say what you have to say? You know, because we all hear what you have to say. I love when the guys talk. Most of the time, the opinion is what makes me think. It makes me change my opinion because I'm thinking it from a woman's perspective. So I definitely think it's just that maybe they are passive also in that serious aura of the conversation isn't really what they were prepared for, isn't really what they want to talk about. They more so want to talk about something chill, like, you know, sex in the dark, or
that is shit. I see what you're saying.
I think that guys, maybe they're afraid, like it's not cool to show passion and show that you care about something. So maybe they're not okay with showing that they care about their African culture until they get like the rice and the jollof rice. Then they're like, okay, I'm African. But when it's time to talk about other issues outside of that, I don't think they feel like they should really be showing that on this campus.
Right. Because the way I see it, it's almost like it's an uneven reflection of what's happening in Africa today. And I say that because, you know, on many campuses, like I said, we travel to different campuses. We see the women leading the African Student Associations, right? Which, if you want to, like a traveler, you want to say, based on what you guys are doing now, you know, if we want to say this is our own small, you know, if we want to say that this is our own Africa, like right here, you guys have your own Africa going on. You go to a different school, you have your own Africa. If we have women leading here, how come back home in Africa, we don't have any women leading at all? We had, I think, in the history of, in all of Africa, we only had 2 female heads of state. We had President Sirleaf from Liberia, and when we just lost like Aminata Gueye, who was the Prime Minister of Senegal. So there's only been 2. So it's like, is it that you guys are going to be leaders here, and then, you know, 10, 15, 20 years from now, the guys who didn't lead, who don't have any experience, and not going to want to lead you guys, then what role are you going to play? And I've even thought about when I first came to college in the United States. The fact that, you know, coming on campus, you know, I felt that, yes, I'm black, but I'm Nigerian. And coming on campus, I felt like I would get a lot of love from, of course, black people because I'm black, and also from African brothers and sisters because I'm African. But it turned out to be almost the opposite, where it was like people who made the most fun of me were either African American or African. When I say African, I mean Africans who were born here. You get what I'm trying to say? Where it's like, you know, I remember very clearly, like, we actually had a meeting where, I used to love this movie, Coming to America. But I thought it was like, she's your queen to me. I thought it was the best thing ever. It wasn't until I came here and like every single meeting we would have like a viewing party, like every meeting, and it was only that one movie. And as soon as Akeem shows up, they're like, oh, Prince Akeem is right here. And I'm Prince Akeem. Like, dang, like, that's kind of cool. You know, and it made me start thinking, like, is that a reason? Because I actually thought about not showing up to meetings anymore. Because I'm like, I thought I was your brother. I thought you were gonna like, you know, show me love. But when I'm on campus, the white kids, I'm black. You know, they're like, oh, that's a black kid or whatever. You know, that's it. I'm good. Nobody's really like messing with me. They might not show love, but they're not really messing with me. But when it came to not just the black kids, but the African kids who were born here of African parents, all of a sudden my accent came into play. All of a sudden how shiny my nose was came into play. All of a sudden, oh my God, I think you have a rub on your chest. I can smell it from here. You know, like little things like that. And it took me a long time to really like let go, because whenever their parents came to visit, their accents were worse than mine. You know what I'm talking about? So I'm like, why are you hating on me when your daddy is like, his accent is like real deep and everything else, and his tribal marks and everything, and you cannot listen like he's African, you know? So, I thought about it so much, and I want to throw that question out to you guys. Like, I don't know if that's something that happens here. I can't say that for sure because, you know, I don't go here. But have you ever seen this happen? Is this something that happens? Have you ever, like, you know, has it ever happened to you where you've kind of like seen that, almost like a separation? We're all African, but I'm African from Africa, and I'm African from here.
I'm actually from Chicago. My dad's from Nigeria, and so it's like a lot of self-hate. Like, Africans born here, since like we only have our parents African, all of our friends are African American, so it's like you want to be who you're around. And so you're not in Africa, so you don't have that community. You're not going to stick with the community you're with, and blacks will make fun of you. So they make fun of your own people over. So it's like Asian Americans making fun of fresh off the boat immigrants. You know, like I have friends who are Asian, born and raised here, but they will not associate themselves with their own people.
Right.
And it's the same thing.
Right. That's an excellent point.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I disagree because like there is a little slight separation with the people who are born like in Nigeria or whatever, and then who come here. Like they stick together more, but like we still like I was born here, but I still interact with them and all that stuff. Like most of them are like my close friends, or whatever. And most of my friends, I can count on my maybe one hand how many American friends I have. Like I'm just surrounded by a whole bunch of. You know, I personally hang out with more Africans, so sorry, she's with me. But anyways, yeah, so I love Africans. I don't make fun of them. Actually, it's like wish I was born there so I can like be down to school faster.
Wait, hold on. Wait. What does that mean?
Because like, you know, if you go to high school and everything there, well, you're probably gonna graduate college when you're like 19.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. What you said was very interesting. What you said was good too. What you said was interesting because I, like, you know, the more time I've spent in the United States, the more, you know, I'm spending, like a lot of my friends, you know, were born here, grew up here and everything else. And I noticed two things. Number one, you have that, you know, that phase where, you know, maybe you're in middle school or elementary school where you don't really know where you fit in, right? Things like you're calling African booty scratcher, like why is your last name so difficult? Like, you know, why you, I mean, you know, there's some parents that still pack jollof rice for their children. And I have a cousin who told me, he was like, he used to starve himself like all through like middle school because his mom would always like pack jollof rice. Like he would never eat his lunch. You know, I'm like, damn, like really? So stuff like that, you know, so you have that whole phase, and then you now see the evolution where, you know, I don't know whether it happens in high school or whether it happens in college, but it's almost like you now see that self-awareness comes back in, right? Where it's like, I don't want to be anybody else except who I am, right? Because you can only run away from being who you are so much. You know, I quote rap a lot because I feel like those guys are poets. And DMX said, you know, never forget where you're from. Somebody will remind you. You know, the more you run away from being who you are, eventually it's going to come back to you. Whether it's in the form of your name, whether it's in the form of the fact that I'm going to visit you one day in your house and everything's going to smell like goat meat. You know, somehow it's going to come back. So I thought that was interesting. So, enough with the deep stuff. Let's go back to the news. So let's go to Ivory Coast. So Ivory Coast, this is something that I found that happened last week. A father was arrested for forcing his 11-year-old daughter to get married. Which, I was like, wonderful. And I said wonderful because I was like, he was arrested. Because you know, this is one of those things that we have laws in Africa against child marriage. Right? I'll use Nigeria as an example because I know Nigeria. Well, we have, you know, a law that says you cannot marry anybody less than 18. However, we have a sitting senator, somebody who's in power, right, who's in the like third term. The person married a 13-year-old girl. Is a senator. So imagine that. This is a country that says you can't marry anybody less than 18, and he married a girl who was 13. And it wasn't like, oh, nobody knew that he got married to her. No, it was a big wedding, like a whole bunch of governors and everybody went to that wedding. And the girl was from Egypt. And because he's a Muslim man, he can only have 4 wives. He actually had to divorce his 15-year-old wife to make space for the 13-year-old. And you know, he's still in power. He's still a senator. He's still there. So when I read this, I was like, wow, like this is actually amazing. Like you actually have an African country who's arresting a father for forcing his daughter to get married. And I was like, that's wonderful. However, one thing I did find, I mean, Ivory Coast has that law. They have that law that says, you know, you can't get married if you're less than 18. You know, but I did some more research and I was like, okay, marriage. Okay, fine. You don't want people to get married. What about like a minimum age below which you can't have sex with a person legally? That's one of the things we don't have. Like statutory. Like Nigeria, for instance, like we don't have that. You don't have an age below which you say this person is too young for you to have sex with them legally. You know what I'm talking about? So that's why you have like a high infant mortality rate where people can have sex with girls who are very, very young, they get pregnant, and of course she can't pass, the baby can't come out because where's the baby coming out from? You know? So that just got me thinking, and I was just like, wow, like this is just, are we putting the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse? Like which one's supposed to come first? You're saying there's a minimum age, you know, below which you cannot marry, but there is no minimum age below which you cannot legally have sex with someone.
I think with the sex thing, it's more what the media says and what people want to listen to. So you know, like nowadays, everything is in the media. That's why media is an industry that will never die, because that's where the trends come. That's where a lot of society, a lot of popularity, everything follows. So if they see, let's say I'm saying celebrity. Let's say Hannah Montana. Let's say she was at the age of 15, whatever, and they see that she's with a crush, like a little 13-year-old crush that looks whatever, and this 13-year-old like, hey, I'm gonna look like Hannah Montana. Get me a little crush like him too, and let alone someone looks just like Hannah's little thing or little boyfriend, whatever, goes to her school and then they start having sex. It's more of like, I don't know if y'all got that example, but it's more of like society and media. And stuff that you see in the media, people are attracted to it, they follow it, so they go through it. Now, I don't know how it goes back at home, Nigeria. I've only been there when I was 3. Never been there.
I see what you think. I think you're going at it like the young people want to have sex early.
Yeah.
But I'm coming at it from the other side, which is that you have some old ass men who are like, ooh, that looks good right there. You know what I'm talking about? Which is slightly different because, I mean, I'll come to you real quick. It's crazy because everybody, I don't know if you guys have this story, because I have female friends and they always tell me like, oh my God, I remember when I was 13, I used to have this uncle that used to come to our house and he always used to be like, come and sit on my lap. Look at you, fine girl, you're doing now wow, look at you, new bra. You know, I mean, we're laughing about it, but this is real. I mean, I don't want to say say by a show of hands, but I know there are people in this room who have been through that. Because, you know, our culture is crazy. You go through your whole life believing somebody's your uncle. You just go to your church, it's not your uncle. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're talking about this minimum age to have sex in Africa, right? If it's for Africa, I think media is also powerful, but the government don't really care about stuff like that. They care about the development and economic status of Africa and the infrastructure. So it's something that's not really being implemented or they don't care about. So it needs awareness. So like it's something we actually talk about and go on and put it in the head that this needs to be checked. It's not like they don't want to change it or don't care about it. It's just that we do not care about it or bringing it to them.
Right.
So that's the problem. We actually reviewing the law about it. Huh? They actually review the law
About the minimum age. That would be great.
They actually do that right there.
So, go ahead.
I think just for you from Nigeria, because that's all I'm familiar with, even if you have the law, what are the chances that people are going to follow it? So a lot of the laws now, there's you can bribe somebody to get out of it, or even if your leaders aren't following, who am I to follow it? Like I know my family back home was saying, oh yeah, there's a driver, you have to have a driving license to drive, but he went to some shop and got his driving license made. He didn't go to school, he just got his driving license, bought it, started driving. So I don't think like them having a law is really going to change anything until maybe it trickles down. The leaders, there's a whole new set of leaders that actually have a right mind and are able to follow ethical laws instead of, you know, leading people. It's like a blind leading the blind.
Right. So the enforcement of laws, not necessarily just having the laws, but the enforcement. And I you know, when you think about, like here for instance, right? You know, you see somebody that looks young. Yes, there's the legal side of things where you're like, okay, jailbait. You know, I don't want to mess with this girl because she looks young. But there's also the moral side of things as well. Like, you don't want to be that dude that's like with a young girl because your boy's gonna be like, yo, she's underage. I feel like that might be one thing that's missing in our culture, where it's kind of like, she's like, okay, let me do something else at you. You know how like, you know, with like Boko Haram and everything else, right? They're like the terrorists that are like, with all the problems we're having in northern Nigeria. If you remember when they kidnapped, you know, bring back our girls and everything else, right? And at first everybody was like, oh, those girls were like 15, 16, you know, they're so young, just bring them back, they're holding them hostage. And people in Nigeria were like, they're not holding them hostage, they already married them off. Like, the rest of the world could not comprehend, like, yo, like, these girls are like 14, 15, 16, they're too young. But people in Nigeria are like, no, they're not too young, like, believe me, like, they're probably already married to the terrorists, like, they're already married off. You get what I'm trying to say? So it's almost like, it's like a different world altogether. Like, the way you think about things, I mean, go ahead.
I feel like this also brings in the cultural aspect of it all. You guys talk about like how the government might not care or it's just like working with itself. But I think it's also the cultural aspect where, as if some people see it happening, they might not report it because sometimes they don't see it as wrong. Sometimes, like if they still do bride price and stuff in certain, especially northern Nigeria. So like if the family needs the money, they're gonna sell that girl because they need to survive as well, and they know that she's going to a home that has money because they could pay the bride price to begin.
That's an excellent point. And I think that was exactly what happened with Senator Yerima. He was a guy who married a 13-year-old girl, where he actually married this girl from Egypt and flew her entire family in for the wedding. So it was like a big do, and of course, the bride price had to be ridiculous. I mean, this guy's renting a private jet to fly in for the wedding of their 13-year-old daughter. That's crazy. I think you said something about this, and I think you also said something about this thing. So Tanzania, East Africa. If you think about Tanzania, it's really close, like Kenya, Uganda, that whole circle. So United Nations has reported that Tanzania is like notorious for two things. Number one, killing albinos. It's like a big problem there. Why did they kill the albinos? They believe that the medicine men, witch doctors, believe that, you know, albinos have special powers. So, say for instance, I want to use Capone's head to do money now. But if I use like an albino boy's head, you know, it's going to be successful. So it's like a big problem. And so I talked about this on Africa Today Show a couple of weeks ago. So I was very surprised when I read this one story where they said just last week in Tanzania, in one village in Tanzania, they just arrested 23 people for killing 7 suspected witches. So I'm like, you guys are killing albinos who are being killed by the witch doctors, and now you have people that are killing the witch doctors? All right, slow down. Let's find out what's really going on. So apparently, this is like a big thing there, where you have witch hunts in the real sense of it. You know, witch hunts, if you think about like Europe and like the Middle Ages and all that kind of stuff, where they find people you're accused of being a witch, blah, 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 they're burning at the stake, things like that. And so they did this. And I was reading more into it, and I'm like, how do you even know this person's a witch? Because this something happened in Lagos, I believe, last week, where, no, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where they said a woman, like a bird fell from the sky and it turned into a woman. You heard about that? Her skin was like all peeled. It's like a true story. It was a bird. Somebody said that they saw a bird like fall from the sky. Boom! And it was a woman. So they said she was going to meet him. Her GPS now got messed up, and then she now fell. So it took like the intervention of like the king of that village to now come and be like, yo, this woman is not a witch. This is just like a homeless, you know, mentally ill person, you know, who probably like got hit by a car or whatever. Like, why would you think a witch will fall from the sky and you put out and beating the witch? What about the other witches? Say again? Oh, you know how it is now. It's a video of her mind, of how she changed.
Well, it's just showing her body, how her skin was feeling. I saw on Facebook. Her skin
Her skin was feeling. I want to stop you there. About flying.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not gonna kill her, but if I saw someone who was a bird and you're turning into a human in front of me, like, I'm not gonna kill you because then you're gonna come back. Like, I mean, I'm not about to just sit like, oh, okay, hey, what's up, bird? That's so cute. No, I'm about to fight or something.
The reason why I think it's just crazy is because I go through times when I believe that you have supernatural powers and I don't believe them, and I believe and I don't believe, and it just goes back and forth. I think that's just a matter of me being African or me just watching too many Nigerian movies. One of the two is happening, right? So off of that, you know, my belief goes both ways. And when you think about it, like, okay, somebody's supposed to be a witch, right? You're a witch. They have powers, they can kill people, they can do things, incantations, everything. You think you can just like walk up to a witch and just like beat up a witch? Like if you're really on your game, that's one thing. But anyways, so they looked into this whole thing and they found out that the mobs that were going around killing people, all you had to do, if somebody owed you money, there was to just say, yo, your mom's a witch. And before you know what's happening, boom, you have a mob that's going into that house. She did this to me, she did that to me, boom, 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 boom. And they're not just killing the women, and most of the women that are being killed are over 60. So you have women that can't even defend themselves, you know, most of them are like widows, you know, so it's like, it's a terrible thing. And, you know, they now reported that it wasn't just, we can't just look at the 7 witches that were killed last week, or suspected witches that were killed last week. This year alone, they've killed over 500 women, suspected witches. And I'm just like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, you know, why is this happening? You know what I'm talking about? If the person is truly a witch, there's no way that you can just like show up and just like be like, all right, you're a witch, I'm gonna kill you. That witch come and get you in the night, in the farm. You know, so stuff like that was just.
Explain what is the difference between like witch and cool stuff? I think you explained for that.
Okay, so you know how like so you have different kind of people that call themselves witches. You should not be afraid. Nothing's coming to you at night. It's just me just talking nonsense now. Don't even believe me. So you have different kinds of people that call themselves.
I'm sorry.
When we're talking about witches. Be careful, Be careful, are we talking about you? Alright, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
I like how you have your phone for. Well charged. So you have regular action, like the regular witch. Then you have the queen of the coast. Those are the ones that went inside the queen of the coast. They don't go foul. So you have the mommy water. It's like light skin. light skin Igbo babes usually. Mommy water, they're the ones that when they wake up in the morning, you can see them. When you wake up beside them, you can see them with oil, palm oil on their mouth because they were eating yam in their drink. So you have those ones as well. No, this I'm telling you is true. Then you have Ogbanje babies. Those ones, you cannot even bring the next swimming pool. I'm telling you, they don't even fish. They're on a diet. They're related. Confirm. This thing I'm telling you, don't tell anybody. Don't tweet about this thing, they'll come and catch you. It's like if I remember I was hashtag Ogbanje. He just like wow, that's why I went into the story. Okay, so now let me bring it home. So you guys know that this Ebola thing is a big deal. People are going crazy, everybody's losing their mind. Oh my God, Ebola. So man, I mean, it went from being a disease in West Africa, and it was like, oh my God, Ebola. It's so terrible, people are dying, to, oh my God, you're African.
Yeah.
And you're sitting beside me.
Yeah.
Whoa, I ain't just called. So we've run down the gamut where, I think now the count that they have is about 4,600 people have died in West Africa from Ebola. And you know how it's always very interesting when things are so far away, but now it's no longer far away. It's here. And just yesterday, I actually heard that they reported the third Ebola case is in New York City, which now, so it made me start thinking. Like I was not thinking to myself like, okay, now it's in New York. What people were going through in Dallas, we're about to get on the East Coast, because you have like it's almost like it's like if it was hard to be African before, it's even more difficult now because you're seeing things that are happening. Take for instance the fact that you had a school in Texas who refused admission to 3 Nigerian kids off of the fact that they were Nigerian. They were like, we're not accepting any students from any countries that have Ebola. So they did that. You know how when you're applying to schools, like I'm sure you guys might have done this for your relatives back home, where they're applying to come to school here and say, you know what, you can, maybe not you, but your parents will be like, you can use our address. If you don't look well, you can use your own passport stuff too, but now our parents are. Anyways, so they used their uncle's address here. So, applications went in, letters came back. He's not gonna just take those letters sealed and send them to Nigeria for 2 reasons. Number one, he's an African man. African men like to open mail. I know how it's for you guys. I'm sure you don't meet your mail closed. Like, there's mail for you. Like, there's mail for you. Your refund check just came in. So you have that. That's one reason. And the second, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you now take the time? The school has sent a decision. You don't want to now mail that same letter all the way to Africa. It's better for you to open it up and be like, okay, you guys can accept it. But he opened it up and he read that, these 3 kids got rejected. And I'm like, why did they reject it? From a country that's Ebola. So it went out on Twitter. It was a big deal. The school is like coming up with all kinds of stupid reasons. No, that's not the case. The reason is because we've decided that we're not going to admit any students from Africa this time because we're focusing on our international application process on Asia. Which is crazy because I've never heard of any institution this one that says they can't say we're only going to admit people from a specific part of the world. That's discrimination. You can't do that, right? So that's number one. Number 2, as an institution, you are not immigration. Your job is to accept or deny based on academic ability. So if the person is grades are good, everything is good, you're in. If you're not, that's it. If the US has decided that we're not going to let people from specific countries come into the US, let the embassies in those countries make that decision. Let the border control make those decisions. It's not a small school in Texas that's supposed to make that decision. So that was the first thing I was thinking to myself. Second thing I was thinking to myself was, if you guys are really going to say, you know what, we're not going to let students come to our school from countries that have active Ebola cases, the World Health Organization just came out and said Nigeria is pretty much Ebola free. So if you're going to refuse admission to countries that have active Ebola cases, there better be no American children in that school next semester. Because America does have active Ebola cases. You know what I'm talking about? So, I mean, the more I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, this is getting real crazy. I mean, it's gone from just being like something that was funny, which is not funny. I mean, I get kind of like ticked off a little when I see jokes about Ebola on Twitter, on Instagram, but the ALS challenge, you better not make any jokes about ALS. You know, you better not play around, you know. I mean, we're comedians, we ain't even do an ALS challenge because we're so afraid that we just might do something. You know, I might pour the water and come here and say blood of Jesus. Like, you're bringing Jesus into this. You know, we're so afraid of it. But now it's cool to say. I mean, it's across the entire spectrum. Late night TV, everybody's making Ebola jokes. It's like that's the thing to do. Like, oh, don't worry, I don't have Ebola. Like, really? I don't know that many people have died of ALS, but I know people that died of Ebola. You get what I'm talking about? So to me, I thought I was very insensitive, but you know how it is. It's somewhere else, but now it's here. So you have that. Then you also have the case of 3 Rwandan children who were actually kicked out of kindergarten because they're African. And I'm like, I've never heard of any Ebola in Rwanda, number one. Number two, these children were born here. So how did they get Ebola? Like how did that happen? You know, it's almost like become like fear, like fear-mongering. Then you have the Senate, the US Senate is now talking about things. They're suggesting different things. First thing they said was, you know what, we're going to restrict travel for anybody who's from West Africa. So if you have a West African passport, you can't come into the United States. They're thinking about that. And my response to that is, let's be honest though, out of all the people who have brought Ebola into America, there's only one person who really had a West African passport. The rest are doctors who went to Africa, got Ebola, and came back. Now, I'm not trying to belittle what they did. I'm not trying to say they shouldn't have gone there because they went there with the best interests and the best intentions. And I'm not going to say don't come back because nobody wants to die. I mean, if there's a way for you to save yourself, of course do that. But let's not use a blanket solution for this. You get what I'm trying to say? So they came out with that, like we're going to stop people from coming back, all that kind of stuff. Right? People are like, that may not be possible. So they've come up with a second thing, which they're probably going to pass into law, which is saying that if you're from specific countries in Africa and you're coming to the United States, you're going to come through specific airports, of which Chicago is one of them. I believe JFK is one of them. I believe Atlanta and the biggest airports, and they also have the ability for them to do scans where they like check your temperature and the screening and all that kind of stuff. Which, I mean, the screening, I mean, what are they doing? They're checking your temperature. Most of the people who have come back, who now develop symptoms, they didn't have the symptoms when they came into the country. You know, I honestly believe that Ebola is a big deal, but I don't think it's that bad a disease. Now, I don't have a medical background, but I do know that if Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone had the medical facilities that America has, it won't be as serious as it is. Look at Nigeria. We're not really as advanced as America, but we're able to control Ebola by quarantine, like doing the right things they're supposed to do. You know, so I look at it like, I mean, think about how Ebola is passed. Bodily fluids, right? You actually have to like have contact with the person's feces, blood, you know, things like that. Like it's not just like they cough in front of your face and boom, you have Ebola. So that's, I'm thinking about the fact that we live in one of the countries that's, people are extremely germophobic. Some people don't even touch doorknobs. They'll sit down and wait. But somebody else will come exactly, it's like, they're like, take the doors, you know, people don't even flush toilets anyway. They're like, I had a friend, I did that thing once and his phone now fell in. And it was a new iPhone 6. The boy had his own hand. I said, hey, you use your own hand inside the toilet, but you wouldn't even touch. Come on now. So, you know, it's crazy to me, and that's like the new normal now, where, you know, you can look at somebody who's African. I put up a video on Instagram today, and people were laughing, but I was actually being very, very serious. Like, Kami and I flew in from Baltimore, and I had on a hat that said Nigerian. And let me tell you something. If you're taking a flight, going anywhere, and you want to take a long nap, you just want to stretch out, have a sign that says you're Nigerian. I didn't intend to do this. It wasn't like a plan. But I'm telling you, like, nobody sat beside us. And it's one of those things that you take for granted, like, you know, it's not a big deal. But you have people who live in this country who they don't have, you know, driver's licenses. They travel with their passports. So anywhere they go, the first thing that they, you know, maybe they're going into a club. I mean, how long is it going to take before you show up to a bar with your Nigerian passport and you're like, oh, you can't. Think about it. We don't want you grinding on girls to Ebola. Think about it. It's how long it's going to take, you know. The fear mongering and everything else. You know, I look at things like that and I think to myself, I say, this is supposed to be the country where, you know, everybody's equal and you don't judge anybody before you know them, and you don't, you know, you don't take my background or my nationality or where I'm from and you don't hold that against me. But it's happening today. It's not just happening today, it's happening in a place where they're supposed to like protect our freedoms. It's happening in the Senate where they're talking about how can they limit us or people, our relatives and people that are coming to visit this country from coming in just because of a specific disease, you know. And I think about it and I say to myself, like, it's okay for our oil to come into this country. It's okay for our natural resources to come into this country. It's okay for the brightest minds to come into this country, but the disease has to stay out. I'm just like, that's absolutely crazy to me, but it's the new normal. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't understand it. If anybody understands it, you can please explain it to me. Why in this day and age, that's okay.
I think I still lie with the ignorance because, like, when Ebola started, okay, yes, started in Africa, but then people aren't aware that, like, it's, you know, the CDC has said that, you know, they're eradicated and now it's in the United States. So I think it's people's lack of attention span. They hear about what's happening, so, oh, you hear about this disease, but nobody ever takes the time to do a follow-up on it. So you hear, like, oh, this bad disease is happening, oh, it's only affecting, you know, Nigeria, things like that, and that's where they stop. They don't do follow-up to figure out, okay, well, now it's eradicated in Nigeria, and now it's in the United States, so now it's Americans who have it too, so now those are the people that you should worry about. And then they don't take the chance to figure out, like, well, how does it spread? It's just like that, like, people are just ignorant, and they just listen to, like, what the media has to say for the moment that it's popular, because when it happened, it was popular in the media that it was happening in Nigeria, right. But it's not as popular in the media saying that it's not there anymore, and it's in the United States. That's like the hush part about it. So I think that's where people just don't take time to do their own research to go deeper into the issue. So it's just ignorance on everybody's part, including the government, because they're not looking at all of that. Like, I take all of the stuff from them, but then I don't want them to come in like that's
Well, also recently, if people don't know, the CDC actually has a patent for the virus, a patent number that was registered in 2007, and there is the name of the person, all of that, how they got it out registered and everything. So I think part of the discussion is not being really put forward because people aren't, when you put a patent for something, the intention is to make profit out of that which you have a patent for. So there is some discussion on, you know, this whole conspiracy theory, things like that. So I think people are afraid to say something because even with the recent appointment of this gentleman who's, I think, a lawyer by the president, instead of a medical doctor.
Yeah, Ebola's
exactly. So you wonder why certain strategic moves are being made.
Right.
So I really agree with what the young lady said about there's not enough awareness. This disease is not the first time that has come about. And history, if you look at United States history dealing with diseases with black populations, you will also see that it's been used that we've been used as guinea pigs for a lot of things. So I really don't see I don't see it anything as anything new. I think it's just now we're in an age where some people are really coming to question if this has existed and we've known about it, why haven't we developed a disease? All I'm waiting for is for the person to say, oh, we've discovered, and see how much money they make out of it. You know, because now, you know, now that the whole world knows about it and, oh, America can solve the problem, I'm wondering how many pharmaceutical companies have already been under the table, linked to it.
Right.
So I really, like I said, agree. There's not enough awareness in terms of that aspect, and we've seen the medical atrocities and the sadness about it. But it's not anything new.
Right.
So that's what we have to. I think that's why we have to be empowered as a people to be able to research. This is the reason why we go to school.
Right.
This is the reasons why we do our research, because we want to be able to empower our people to be able to make change,
right,
and not wait for somebody else to do it.
Excellent point. Thank you very much. And I want to piggyback on what you said, and I want to throw something out. And this is a very unpopular statement, and I'm throwing it out to you guys because you guys are very intelligent, and you guys are the future, and we should be able to challenge things that might be difficult for us to come against. Why is it that the only case of Ebola in which the patient died in America was an African man? That's the only person who's ever died of Ebola in America. Why is it that when an African man was being treated for Ebola, all of a sudden ZMapp is finished? But even after this case, we have 2 more people who have gotten Ebola who have been cured of Ebola.
They said that the cure for Ebola doesn't work for people who have melanin in their skin.
Okay, no, that's
I know, and the thing about this thing is, there's a lot of misinformation that is being fed to the people that people don't know what sources to trust. Like for one, like she said, this is not the first case of Ebola that we've seen. I heard another story that they were experimenting with this new strand of Ebola, blah, blah, blah. It spread in the vaccine that they were giving out, blah. And then, it's just a lot of stuff. We're not privy to the information. I feel like the real information that's out there, you really can't trust any of the sources that give you this information because you don't know what bias they're operating under. And, God bless Nigeria for at least being able to contain it. And when you think, I don't know if you guys, are really reading about this stuff. The way they kept it down as far as the mortality rate and stuff like that was by aggressively hydrating people who were, having a diarrhea and vomiting and stuff like that, which is a very under-practiced, they don't, the Western world, we don't use stuff like that. We rely on, research drugs. So you're like, oh, we need this new drug. Oh, this is what's going on. We need to take the new drug because that's what's going to help. But Nigerians are like, this is what we're going to do. Right. And, thank God, y'all don't have any cases, September the 20th or something like that? Right. September, something, 8th or something. And we've been operating without a case since. But it's just you don't know who to trust. They're reading the article today, there was another, apparently got to New York.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's to be honest, I feel like we as a people, we have other things we need to be worried about. All the police brutality stuff that's going on in Ferguson, I don't know if you guys pay attention to stuff like that, but that's still going on. There's 70-something days still going on.
And that's a problem.
And I feel like this is strategically to distract us from what's going on.
I mean, that's another problem that has to do with melanin in our skin. We're talking about melanin.
everybody has when you're white, right? Everybody has
So I put that up on Instagram, and I'm telling you, I've gotten 8 mil before. I've never done anything close to that. And it's almost like you can't even, there's some things you're not allowed to say. You can't even say. Now this isn't a conspiracy theory. I'm talking about the government was going after me. I'm just talking about just stupid people on Instagram. Just being like, no, you can't say that, blah, blah, nobody killed the guy. I'm like, I ain't saying anybody killed him. I'm saying, why is he the one to die? Why? Because nobody's going to sue. Because these people are immigrants too. Nobody's going to come ask him. So, I mean, stuff like that just makes you wonder. And I don't know. That's the thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize if I'm going to end this episode of Africa Today Show that I don't know, but I feel like that is what the world is about. We don't know. If you think you know, you don't. So I really want to appreciate everybody for coming out today. You guys were absolutely amazing. I hope you had a good time. My name is Foxy P, and you guys are going to see us tomorrow. It's going to be crazy. I mean, it's me, I'm going to be performing tomorrow. Comi's going to be performing. Capone is going to be performing. Chief Obi is going to be performing. So that's going to be a blast. And he's coming in at like, I think at like 11 or noon or so. So we're going to be chilling, hanging out, doing all that kind of stuff. Anybody have any questions, anything?
Are we going to be on TV?